Alright, g'day guys and welcome back tonight to another Obsidian video. Tonight we're going to be looking at maps, specifically how to add a map, how to add pins to the map, how to link those pins to notes so that you can click the pin within the map and open up the information for that location very efficiently, and how to draw on your maps. We're going to walk through how to install the required plugins and talk about how to use that plugin. So without further ado, let's jump into the plugin, which is called Obsidian Leaflet. It's a fantastic little plugin that's been developed by Jeremy Valentine. You might know him as @Javelin over on the official Obsidian Discord channel. Very, very friendly and amazingly useful bloke from what I've seen so far. He is just so prompt with responses to the community, both assisting people with how to use Obsidian, going away in the back end and developing new features and functionality that people are requesting. And yeah, absolute hat off to this guy. He's doing an amazing job, and from what I can see, he's really driving the charge towards making tabletop RPG plugins available for the community. So thank you, Jeremy. There'll be a link into the description there where you can find out what he's doing. So without further ado, let's jump over to Obsidian and have a look at how we use this Obsidian Leaflet add-on. Alright, so in front of me you can see my demo vault. As you can see, it's rather new vault. There's very little going on, and I'm going to do that on purpose and try and build this vault as I go so you guys can follow each video along and see the steps that it takes to get to a point where this is capable of replacing something like Realmworks. So the first thing we need to do is actually install the mod. So what we're going to do is we're going to go down here to the settings cog, click that. You come up here to community plugins. Now you can see the installed plugins here. We've only got Admonition, which is the one we installed in the last video. Then what we're going to do is we're going to go browse. We're going to come up here to search, and we can type Obsidian Leaflet. Helps if I spell it right. Now here we can see Obsidian Leaflet. It's by Jeremy Valentine. It's been downloaded nearly 6,000 times. So what we're going to do is we're going to click the install button. Now, while it's installing, I always take the time to read through this document here so we can see a link to the repository where all of its documentation and files are kept. So if anyone wants to have a look at that, you can. I love how Jeremy comes in and he always adds an interactive GIF here so you can actually see the plugin and how it functions and what it does. But more importantly, down here what we see is a list of all the documentation on how to use this plugin. And there's examples on the text you need to write in order to set this up. More importantly though, there's a catalogue of all the options that you can actually use here. And, you know, I really recommend people take the time to read through these reading files that come with these plugins, because they give you all the information you need really to get this installed and up and running. And it'll save you a lot of time and frustration if you just take the time to do this. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to copy this while I'm here. Alright, I'm going to put it over onto a notepad I have on the other screen, and then I'm going to shut this one down because we've now got it installed. We do need to enable it, and just so you can see that is you can do that from here as well. So we can click enable there, or you can come back here to the community plugins and you can find the plugin in the list of installed plugins, click the button to enable that. Now what we have down here now is the plugin options for the installed plugin. So if we click on Obsidian Leaflet, we can have a look through here and see what's available. Just read through your options, how it works, what it's doing. There's an option here that I quite like, so display note preview. This means when you hover over a pin, it will display the note that is pinned in a bit of a preview window. I think that's really cool. You can copy coordinates if you want. We can change from metric to imperial. We've got a default map marker here. And I think the one thing that's going to be really important, especially for the Realmworks guys, is this option down here. So we can go through and add an additional map marker, and this is really cool because it lets you add customized map markers in your own colors or with your own icons to really flesh out your world how you want it to look. So what we can do is click add additional. I'm going to come in, I'm going to type room. I'm going to pick a home icon. we can come in here and change the color. What do we want? I've got a black and white map, so I probably need something a bit bright. I haven't played with the zoom levels yet. I'm sure I will spend some time with that once I get a bit more experience with it. And here we've got an associate tags. I'm going to go ahead and set that. I haven't played with this yet, so it'll be interesting to see what it does. I imagine what that's going to do is every time you use one of these pins, it's going to tag that with a home icon. I'm going to call it home pin, just so I can see what that looks like. Alright, so now we have a customized broom pin, and that's really cool. So we've enabled our plugin, we've enabled the overlay tooltips, and we've added an additional room marker. So now we can click close. Actually, before we're there, button down here is really important, guys. If you would like to support Jeremy and what he's doing, and obviously keep him creating RPG plugins for Obsidian, there is an option to come down here and buy this man a coffee. So we should shower this man in coffee from what I'm seeing so far. So let's close this button here and come back to our map. Oh, sorry, our vault. Alright, so what we have here is I've come through and added a dungeon folder. I've got an ant dungeon, that's going to be my parent topic. I've made 2 rooms, and I've made an ant queen encounter. So we're going to go through and add the map into here, and then we're going to create pins that link over to these topics. Just for my realm work, guys, obviously we're used to being able to put text into the parent topics. I will say that that is possible, and in one of my future videos we'll cover a plugin called Folder Notes. I think there's actually 2 variations of that plugin available, so we might have a look at both of them, and that will enable you to type into here, which will change the way this all structures. So we'll get to that point. Alright, so we have our ant dungeon, and what we have is I have copied the map that I want, or at least I had. It has just shut down on me, so give me a sec. Actually, I could probably, yeah, there we go. I'm going to rename this to the Ant Encounter or Ant Dungeon. I'll do it. So what I've done is I've opened up this image into an image file. I've copied it and pasted it into the vault. Alright, that creates an attachment, and I've put them down here. I will cover this now. Well, what you can do is create a folder, and you can call it attachments. Alright, or anything that you like. I like to call mine Z_attachments for sorting purposes. That will make sure it's always down the bottom of my list. What you can do is right click that and go set as attachment folder. Alright, now any new attachments that you create are going to automatically be added into that folder, and that just keeps this whole structure a lot neater, I'm finding. So got my ant dungeon, I've added that in, I've renamed it. Another thing that you could potentially do here is that you could basically have the files here, so you can see like I'm in my folder structure within Windows. Get rid of that. So within Windows you can see I'm on my G drive, Obsidian Demo Vault, and then within here you can see I've now got a folder for Z attachments that I've created, and inside here you can see the files that I've added. So, you know, technically I can do this. Alright, and you can see that just renames that. So that's one thing I really love about Obsidian, is it is literally just folders and items, or you know, text files and image files. It's really quite simple. This will be interesting to see here. See how that, when I renamed it outside of the program, that didn't rename this, so be very careful with that. But if I type Queen Ant here, we can fix that up nice and quickly. Alright, anyway, let's go back to our ant dungeon. So this is going to be our topic where we need to do this, and by default, you can drag things out of here, or you can type ant dungeon, alright, and bring it in. Notice the difference between the two images that I've got there. I've got an exclamation mark in front of this one, but no exclamation mark in front of that one. This is what it looks like in preview mode, so you can see that the exclamation mark makes it render. No exclamation mark will just provide a link to it. You can obviously hover over it to see a preview, then you can click it to open it from that as well. So there's lots of different ways you can handle this, but neither of these is a map. Right, it's not a map. There's not much you can do with it. You can't add pins. You can't even resize it. You can't make it bigger at this stage. That'll come later. There's mods for that. So what we need to do is we need to go back to our plugin and go back to our README file, and this is where this comes in. Alright, so the instructions on how to turn an image into a map, and as I said before, I've already taken a cut and paste of that. Alright, and what I've actually done is, per my previous video, I've got my markup language notes here where I'm keeping track of all the different code that I'm using so that I can regurgitate it. And what I've done is I've created a maps folder. I can come in here to edit mode, and you can see here that I've pasted the code straight out of that README file so that I can come in here and copy and paste it into my text. So let's do that now. I'm going to go copy, go to Ant Dungeon, paste. Now I just have a quick look through here and find the bit that I want to get rid of. So I can see the image is very clearly here. I'm going to replace that. Now we have all of our settings. I don't know what these settings are going to do yet. I haven't even looked at this. Let's have a look. Whoa. It's got an interesting setting there for inverting the color. But you can see we now have a map and we've got a lot more controls. So let's just have a look at that. I reckon dark mode. There we go. We'll turn dark mode to false instead of true. And now we have the map the way it was intended. So that's the map there with a lot of code. I have got this other one here that is a lot smaller. So let's put that in as well. And we'll copy the ant dungeon in here. I shall show you a different way. You can just do this backslash. Oh, that didn't work. Try that again. Backslash ant dungeon. There should be an antdungeon.png. There it is. Click. Alright, and now we have that there. Alright, so two maps. Now, there's a really important element to this, and I'm just going to make it so you can see it very clearly. I'm going to call this ID Ant Dungeon. I'm going to call this one Ant Dungeon. Alright. Oh, sorry, down here. So now we have two maps that are next to each other. You can see the sort of difference in how they start, and I think that's what all these settings for is. It's basically setting your default for your scales and your zooms and where your mouse starts and all that sort of stuff. So it might pay to find your sweet spot of settings and just copy and paste that in every time. Or you could just start with the bare default easy one there and just then do your scroll in, for example. Now, the way this works, we have a full screen mode, alright, where we can zoom in, we can move our map. It's really quite clear and easy to use. We can go out of full screen mode. We've got zoom buttons. We've got a button here for showing all of the markers. We can reset our view. I think we've got a distance tracker down here. Yep. Got some filtering options, and we've got our drawing options, and we've got a save button. And the way this works is really quite easy. So we can right click and we get access to a menu that lets us pick a pin. So we have what they call a default pin, and you can see there is a white pin there. Obviously the default's not much good on a black and white map, so I'm going to delete that. We can right click and we can put our room pin in. So there's our room pin, got our home icon. And what we can do is we can then right click on that and go edit marker. And this is where we're basically able to determine what this links to. So this is my room 1. So I'm going to type in here house room 1. Alright, it's using the marker type of room. Do I want to display a tooltip when I hover over? Yes, and remember I activated that in the settings of the plugin at the start of the video. If you don't do that, hover won't work. Then you got some min and max zooms that I haven't played with yet, so we'll set that, we'll close that, and now we can hover over this and we can see that this now opens up the room. And what we can do is we can click that and that opens up the topic. We can click backs, or we can control click it and it will open it up into a different section there. Now just a bit of a note there on what just happened. You saw I clicked that and it opened up this topic into edit mode, which is probably not too useful for people when they're actually running their game. So we're going to click into settings, we're going to go into editor, I think it is, and we're just going to go, the default new pane mode is going into preview mode. Close that, and test this again, control click, and it now goes straight into that view. So that's obviously a lot better for when you're running your games, whereas when you're actually sitting down and doing a few hours of data entry, maybe you want to go back into the settings and quickly change it back into editor mode so that you can obviously do less clicking when you're editing. But yeah, that's it. So let's do that again. We can right click, click a room, right click, edit marker. We're now going to put this to house room 2. And that's it, we're done. And now we can hover, and there we go, and we can click, or we can go backwards and we can control click. There we go. So as you can see, that level of functionality is really easy. But this is what I wanted to show you guys. See how we've got 2 maps. And I've added the pins to one map, and they've added the pins to the other map. I just wanted to call this out because this kind of stumped me at first, because I actually started cut and pasting my code from in here all over the place and just updating this image to point to my new map. And then what I was finding is that I was going into my my maps, and I was finding very quickly that there was pins on all of my maps, and it was all in the same location, even though the map was different. And what it is this is an ID that associates the data with that map. Alright, so Ant Dungeon 1 and Ant Dungeon 2 will turn this into, oh interesting, into unique files. I'm going to take away the 1 because I've already associated those pins with Ant Dungeon. There we go. So you can see what's happening there, right, is I'm setting a unique identifier for the overlay of that specific map. That is creating a database somewhere or a record of where the pins are, and then you can effectively copy those pins to another map that's exactly the same just by copying that ID over. Or if you've got a different map, you must make sure that it's a unique identifier. Alright, so that should be pretty simple. And obviously now we can right click, we can add a new pin, and you can see they're not linked. But just for the purposes of a demo, if I was now to come up here and type 2, we can see that the pins basically replicate across. So just a bit of an FYI there, a bit of a technical requirement to make sure that you guys understand what's going on. Alright, so that's pins, and I think, you know, that's pretty simple. I really like that. I could add more pin types, for example. So let's go settings, let's go to our Obsidian Leaflet and come down here to our thing, and we're going to go dungeon room, or sorry, encounter. Let's do encounter. We have to find an icon that makes sense. And there's probably all sorts of cool stuff you can find in here. I do believe there's also other icons that you can install if you do a search for plugins. Let's actually do that. Let's go to community plugins. Let's go browse. Let's type in icons. Icons plugin. Add icons to your Obsidian notes. That's not the one I'm after. That's adding there. Allow swapping out of Obsidian note. Alright. Is there anything that adds more icons? No, there's not. So I'm sure there is a way to add icons so that you can probably find at a later time, and if I do find those, I'll be sure to post a video so everyone knows how they're getting them. But for this purpose, let's go back, let's add our encounter. Let's find something that looks relatively okay for an encounter. What have we got? We've got a bell. Biohazard. There we go. What we're going to do, I'm going to make that one sort of nice and bright red. I'm going to give it a tag just to see if I can sell what that's doing later, and now I have an encounter. So what I can now do is come back here. I've got my queen ant. I can right click, put my encounter tag. It's not going to work for me. What if I do this? It did work. It just probably didn't refresh because I created the tag, I would imagine, without recycling this this node. So shutting it down, restarting it seems to trick it back into working. I can now right click this, go edit marker. We can basically point this to the ant queen. Alright, there we go. And now we can hold our mouse over and we can obviously see that's pointing to our ant queen. So that's really easy. But what else can we do? And this is where we have functionality we didn't have in Realmworks. Is I really like the polyline. I'm going to set my color. Something really ugly like a yellow. I'm going to say that our party started here. They came around here. Alright, they came in, they checked this room. They checked that room, they didn't find what they were after. And they left back out through the door. They explored the boat, they didn't find anything. They went here, they found the entrance to the cave, and you can see that this could be really useful. Now I'm thinking this would be really probably useful, not necessarily for dungeons maybe, but for keeping track of roads. You could draw roads onto regional maps, or you could track the path of the party as they've gone through to encounter something, as you can see I've done there. There we go. Alright, you can see that we've now got our path there. So that's really cool functionality that we didn't have before. There is other stuff here, so you can see that there's a rectangle. Alright, there's a polygon. Oh, I'm making a mess of that, but you get the idea. Alright, so there's different shapes that you can use, and then obviously you can delete these shapes as well. I have found this. Oh, there we go, just click it. Coming from CC 3+, I try to always go for the edges, and this one's a lot easier to use. So, and then once you're done, you can save. So, yeah, that's really cool. Now remember that we tagged our tag before. So we put we didn't associate a tag. Let's try that. Room tag. Do we put one on the encounter? I just want to see what this does. Go over to our tag pane. Doesn't really seem to be doing what I thought it would do, so no, cool. Once I figure out what that does, I'll be sure to let everyone know. And yeah, that's the basic functionality of how to go through, add a map, add pins to your map, how to draw on the map, how to link your map through to other topics. And as you can see, it's really quite easy to use. Some people might argue that it's not as easy to use as Realmworks was. but I would say that it's certainly less clunky. It feels a lot more natural and responsive, and I certainly like that. It's very easy to use. Once you get your head around the fact that you can cut and paste this text in and you just update a couple of tiny little sections and it just starts working, I think that's a really good win. So anyway, if you've got any questions, be sure to let me know in the comments sections. You can always find me in the Facebook group, which will be linked in the description as well. And yeah, be sure to send your thanks to Jeremy Valentine for all of his hard work in this. It's an absolute fantastic plugin, and I would say this is a door opener to enabling Obsidian to be a really fantastic tabletop RPG campaign manager. So thank you, Jeremy. Hats off to you, mate. This is a brilliant add-on. So if you're enjoying this content, please ensure to like and subscribe. I will be posting a lot more videos as we go through and starting to really sort of focus on probably do a video per plugin for a while until we cover all the basics. So I think that's probably where we'll be. So once again, guys, thanks for joining me this evening. I'll speak to you on the forums, and have a great day.